Good morning, students. Today we start our next book, Political Science, which is the branch of social science, and the first chapter is power sharing. First of all, we discuss about the definition of political science, that it is the branch of knowledge that deals with the state and the system of the government and the scientific analysis of political activity and behavior. So this political science is the branch of knowledge, and we study about the state, about the system of government, and we come on some conclusion by the study of political science. The father of political science is Aristotle, who is also the father of biology. So first we start this chapter by the introduction of this chapter, that the chapter discusses why an intelligent sharing of power among legislature, executive and judiciary is essential in a democracy. You know that these are the three organs of government. Later we discuss one by one. We will discuss two stories from Belgium and Sri Lanka and draw some conclusion about the need for power sharing in democracy. First of all, that what is democracy? It is a form of government in which representatives are elected by the people. This is the definition of democracy. Rule of people. People have the power of right to vote, and by this power people are elected their representatives. Before we discuss the concept power sharing, here we are discussing the two stories from the different nation. One is from European continent and one is from Asia continent. First of all, that we are starting here the country that is Belgium. Belgium is a small country in Europe, smaller in area than the state of Haryana. The area of Belgium is less than the state of Haryana. It has borders with France, the Netherlands, Germany and Luxembourg. These are the four countries which are sharing their boundary with which country? With Belgium. The population is little over 1 crore, and the ethnic composition of this small country is very complex. It means that there is also diversity. It is a small country, its area is like as in Haryana and population is half than of Haryana, but still there is ethnic composition, there is diversities in this country. So let us discuss that which kind of diversity. Diversity is based on language. The ethnic composition of Belgium. In Belgium, 59% people, those who are Dutch speaking, Dutch is a language, and live in which region? In the Flemish region. 40% people lives in Wallonia region and speak French language, and 1% remaining people speak German. The capital city of Belgium is Brussels, and here is opposite, that the 80% people, those who are minority in the country, they are majority in where? In the capital city of Belgium, Brussels, 80%, and 20%, those people who are in majority in the country but they are minority in the capital city is 20%. So what is the tension between the two, Dutch speaking people and French speaking people? Let us discuss. The minority French speaking people relatively rich and powerful. These 40% people, they are rich and powerful in economic and political way as compared to Dutch people. This was resented by the Dutch speaking community, who got the benefit of economic development and education much later. So this was the tension, that the people, those who are in majority in the country, they got the education development, economic development later. That was the major tension between the French speaking people and the Dutch speaking people. This led to tension between the Dutch speaking and French speaking communities during 1950s and 1960s. Brussels presented a special problem, and the problem is that the Dutch speaking people constituted a majority in the country but a minority in the capital. So this was the problem, that the majority community was relatively weak in economic and political way as compared to minority community, the French. So this was the tension in that country. So what is the result, or what happened in Belgium? That there was accommodation between the diversities, and there was no civil war. Tensions were removed by the government of Belgium. Accommodation in Belgium. Belgian leaders recognized the existence of religion differences and cultural diversities, and they amended their constitution 4 times between 1970 and 1993 to solve the tension between the Dutch-speaking and French-speaking people. The Belgian leader, they amended their constitution 4 times between the 1970 and 1993 so as to work out an arrangement that would be more equitable. It means that for reducing the tension between the Dutch-speaking and French-speaking people, the government of Belgium amended its constitution. So, what were the amendments? Let us discuss first. That the constitution prescribes that the number of Dutch and French speaking ministers shall be equal in the central government. That equal number of ministers in the central government, it was the first provision made by the Belgian leader in their constitution. Second, many powers of the central government have given to the states government of 2 regions of the country, Flemish and Wallonia. The state governments were not subordinate to the central government. It means federalism was practiced in Belgium country, that some powers are taken from the central government and given to the 2 states government, the Flemish and the Wallonia. Brussels as a separate government, which is the capital city of Belgium, in which both the communities have equal representation. Here, the majority community accepted the equal representation of minority community French, and in Brussels, the minority community is Dutch and the majority community is French. French accepted the equal representation of minority Dutch in the capital city, Brussels. Third kind of government. This community government, which kind of government? Name the third kind of government. That is community government, is elected by people belonging to one language community, Dutch, French and German speaking, no matter where they live. It had power. What are the powers of community government? That they take decision regarding the culture, the language and education related issues. So these are the 4 amendments which took place between 1970 and 1993 by the Belgian leader to solve the problem between the Dutch community and the French community. Here is a new word, that is ethnic, that is social division based on shared culture. People are belong to one nation but they speak different language. So this is the story that of the Belgium country and the peaceful solution made by the Belgian leader. Let us move on our next country, that is Sri Lanka. You know that it is our neighboring country which is located in south. It got independence in 1948 from the British rule. So let us discuss that what happened in Sri Lanka. We discussed about a country and about the peaceful negotiations made by the Belgian leader between the Dutch community and French community. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is an island nation just a few kilometers off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. It has about 2 crore people. Like other nations in South Asia region, Sri Lanka has a diverse population. Asia continent is known for its diversity. You know that India is one of the prominent country of Asia continent and is famous for its diversities in the world. So what is the ethnic composition in Sri Lanka? Let us discuss one by one. The 74% people, Sinhala speaking people, language, mostly which religion belong to Buddhist. 18% Tamil speakers. Out of 13% Sri Lankan Tamil natives in the country, concentrated in the north and the east of the country. 5% Indian Tamils. Yes, these people who were migrated from India to Sri Lanka by the Britishers as a tea plantation workers. 7% Christians who are both Tamil and Sinhala. It means that these people speak both the languages, the Sinhala language and the Tamil language. So this is the ethnic composition in Sri Lanka. So what happened? That there was a civil war in Sri Lanka, not in the Belgium. Let us discuss. Next concept of this chapter is majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka independent in 1948 from British rule, Sinhala community wanted to dominate the government by virtue of their majority. Who are in majority in the country? 74% Sinhala speaking people. They wanted that to try to fix their domination over the people of minorities. Democratically elected government adopted a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy. It is very important question of for CBSE board, that which steps were taken by the Sri Lankan government to follow the policy of majoritarianism. So, four steps mainly. In 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language and disrespecting Tamil. So, this was the first step which was taken by the Sri Lankan Sinhalese government to dominate its culture, its language, its tradition over the minorities people. So by the Act of 1956, they declared that Sinhala will be the official language of Sri Lanka. Next step, that the government followed preferential policies that favored the Sinhala's applicants for university position and government jobs. That make some rules and regulation regarding which give benefit to only Sinhalese people in the government jobs or in the colleges for admissions and for other facilities. A new constitution stipulated that state shall protect and foster Buddhism. It was the another step which was taken by Sinhalese government, that the new constitution should protect and foster only one religion, that is Buddhism. No Hindu, no Islam, no Christian would be protected by the new constitution. Denial of citizenship to state Tamils. So these were the four steps which were taken by Sri Lankan government to follow the policy of majoritarianism. These were the four reasons that why the people, Tamil people in Sri Lanka, they thought that their culture had suppressed by the Sinhalese government. So what is majoritarianism? A belief that the majority community should be able to rule a country in whichever way it wants by disregarding the wishes and the needs of minority. For example, in India, who is in majority? Hindus. When they think that only we are able to rule over this country and no one minorities like Muslim, Christian, Buddhist and Jainis, these are not able to rule our country of India. This is majoritarianism. These measures created a sense of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. There was a feeling of disrespect among the minds of Sri Lankan Tamils. They felt discrimination in getting jobs, equal political rights being denied. Therefore, tension between Sinhala and Tamil communities, Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties and struggle. And one of the important terrorist organization which was called as LITE, Liberation Tiger of Tamil Elam. This was a terrorist organization which was set up by the Tamil people, and the demand was the measure that a separate country, Tamil Elam, must be formed by the Sinhalese government, by the Sri Lankan government, only for Tamils. By the 1980s, several political organizations were formed demanding an independent Tamil Elam state in the northern and the eastern parts of Sri Lanka. So this was the tension, and there was the feeling of disrespect in the minds of Tamil people. And what was the result? That there was a civil war. Civil war between which community? Between the Sinhalese people and Tamils people. Distrust increased, turned into civil war, thousands of people killed, many families forced to leave the country, and loss of livelihood. These were the results of the civil war which took place between the Tamil people and the Sinhalese people in which country? In Sri Lanka. So students, we discuss about the two stories of the two different continents. One is from Asia and one is from Europe. We see that there was no civil war in the country of Belgium, which is the part of Europe continent, but on the other hand that there was civil war in Sri Lanka. So what do you mean by civil war? A violent conflict between the opposing groups within a country that becomes so intense that it appears like a war. This civil war take place inside the boundary of a nation between the diverse group of the people, and it was appear like as a war, that is known as civil war. So these two important stories which we discussed. So what are the lessons that we learned from above the stories? So first one is that unity of the country is possible only by respecting the feelings and interests of the different communities and the regions. Today India is a integrated country. Unity, there is a unity in our country India because our constitution give respect to all the religions. India is a secular country. There are so many measures taken by the constitution or by the government to protect the minorities and for the backward people. There should be mutually acceptable arrangements for power sharing. If the people of Belgium, they are ready to share their power among the different groups, so there was no civil war, but on the contrary, Sri Lankan Sinhalese government tried to dominate over the people of Tamils. Then there was a civil war between the two language community, Sinhala and Tamils. So next concept of this chapter is why power sharing is desirable. What is the reason that why we should share the power? So first of all, I want to tell you about the definition of power sharing. Power sharing, it is a process by which we are sharing the power between the different organs of the government, different levels of the government, between political parties and pressure group, and between the linguistic and social groups. This is known as power sharing. So two different sets of reasons can be given in favor of power sharing. Why power sharing is desirable? What is the need of power sharing? We see that power sharing is desirable in a democratic country like in Belgium, that there was no tension. But when a democratically elected government takes some steps, try to follow the policy of majoritarianism, then there is a violent clashes between the different diverse group as like in Sri Lanka. Firstly, power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between the social group like in between the Dutch and the French community in Belgium. Power sharing is good way to ensure that the stability of political order. Secondly, power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. Yes, we can say any country is a democratic country because there is the different organs of the government who are working separately because the division of power is done by the constitution. A democratic rule involves power sharing with those affected by its exercise and who have to live with its effect. We have the power, we the people of India. This is the sentence by which we are starting our preamble, that the real ruler in our country India is the people. People have the right to vote. They choose the government, they change the government if the government is not ruling according to the people wishes. That's the reason that power sharing is desirable. People have a right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. So these are the two important sets of reasons that power sharing is desirable. Next we'll discuss that the two regions that we can call it the prudential region and the moral region. It is also important question of 3 marks, that what are the prudential region, what are the moral region. Prudential regions, the regions which are based on careful calculation of gains and losses. Before we giving something to others, we have to think that what are the losses and gains after the share. These regions help to reduce the possibility of conflict between the social group. For example, in our country, that 84 seats are given to SCs community in Lok Sabha and 47 to STs. Yes, reservation of constituency for minorities and women, 33% seats are reserved in the local government by our Indian constitution for women. So these are the two examples of which regions of power sharing, the prudential region of power sharing. Next one is moral regions. They are purely based on morality. Yes, morality considerations, that everyone has right to vote because everyone is the part of this nation. Like decentralization of power. Yes, what is decentralization of power? When some powers are taken from central and state government and given to the local government. As we discussed when we discuss about Belgium, that the community government, this concept of community government is taken from Belgium by our Indian constitution as the local government in our country, India. Moral reasons are based purely on moral considerations. These reasons are it means that these are on considerations that purely based on morality. These reasons are considered as the basic spirit of democracy. Decentralization of power in India is an example of moral region. So this is the difference between the prudential region and the moral region. Next concept is the forms of power sharing. My dear students, it is also important part of this chapter, that forms of power sharing, why we can call that India is a federal country, why we can call that India has a separate powers to the different organs and the different levels of governments. So let us discuss. First of all, there are 4 forms of power sharing. That power sharing among the different organs of the government, it is also known as horizontal form of power sharing. Power sharing among the governments at the different levels, it is called vertical form of power sharing. Among different social groups, among political parties and pressure group. Let us discuss one by one. First off, we are starting here that power sharing among the different organs of government. In 9th class, we discussed that there are 3 organs of the government. First of all, legislative, executive and judiciary. Legislative, the main work of legislative is to make law, and the head of legislative is the cabinet, and cabinet is headed by the prime minister. Executive, the law which are made by the legislature is enforced by the executive, and the president is the head of executive, and all the civil servants are the part of the executive. Next one is judiciary. To explain the law, it is the guardian of Indian constitution, it is the protector of fundamental rights. Yes, judiciary, it is one of the important organ of functioning the democratic government in our country, India. Suppose legislature make any bad law which is against of the welfare of people and is executed by executive, but there is the third organ of government which can stop that law, which can dismiss that law if it is not according to the spirit of the Indian constitution. System of checks and balances. Dear students, 1 mark question, very important, that what is the system of checks and balances? Ministers and government officials are responsible to the parliament or state assemblies in a democracy. You know that Lok Sabha is the house of people and cabinet is primarily responsible to the parliament. One example is here, though judges, judiciary system, judges are appointed by the executive, by the president or by the governor. They can check the functioning of executive or laws made by the legislature. There is a balance among the 3 organs of government to put control on each other. Why? To stop the dictatorship of one organ of the government. So there is a control put by the Indian constitution over the 3 organs of government. Next one is that the vertical form of power sharing, and this is also known as the among governments at the different levels. So in the vertical form of power sharing, there are 3 levels of government in our country. First one is central government, union government, federal government. Second one is state government, and third one is local government. Local government, which we adopted from where? Which country? Belgium. Community government, third tier of government. Powers are distributed by the constitution by the 3 lists among the basically central government and the state government. Union list. Yes, in union list previous subject is 97, but at present there are 100 subjects in the union list. The subjects which has a national importance like defense, currency, railway, post office, etc. are the part of union list. Only central government has right to make laws in these subjects. Only one government which make law on this subject, that is the central government. Second is state list. Previous subject 66, at present 61 subjects. And the subjects which have the state importance or regional importance like agriculture, trade, police, prison are the part of state list. In normal condition, there are 3 kinds of emergency power which are mentioned in the Indian Constitution. First one is Article 352, national emergency. Second is Article 356, state emergency. And 360 is financial emergency. My dear students, in normal condition like at present in our country, in our state Haryana, it has the BJP government, coalition government of BJP and JJP. Okay. But suppose that there is presidential president rule or Article 356 imposed by the president on the advice of central government, then all these subjects are in the hand of which government? In the central government. So in normal days these subjects are in the hands of state government, but in emergency period these subjects automatically forward into the hand of central government. In normal condition only state government has right to make laws on these subjects. So like agriculture, trade, police, prison, these are the different important regional subjects which are the part of state list. Next one is that the concurrent list. Concurrent list, previous subjects 47, at present 52 subjects are the part of concurrent list. Both government has a right to make the laws. This list includes the subjects which are of common concern both to the central and the state governments. Education is one of the important topic or subjects which is the part of concurrent list. And sports students, that there is a clash of the laws which is framed by the central government and by the state government, and if there is a clash between the two laws, the final law will be made by the central government. So in every way the one form of government is much powerful, that is the central government. One is residuary powers. When our Indian constitution was framed by the Constituent Assembly, then some subjects which were not available at that time, like the computer and software, now these subjects are the part of which powers? The residuary powers. And residuary powers are always in the hands of central government. So it is the description of the division of power among the three levels of government, basically to decentralization process we will discuss in chapter number 2, federalism. Basically to between the central government and the state government by the three lists: central list, union list, state list and concurrent list, and one is residuary powers. The next form of power sharing is among the different social groups, such as the religious and linguistic groups. For example, community government in Belgium. Community government in Belgium is the best example of power sharing between the different social groups. In some countries there are constitutional and legal arrangements whereby social weaker sections and women are represented in legislature and administration. In our country India, there are some seats reserved for our SCs and STs, and there are 33% reservation given in the local government by the government to the women in our country. Next one is among different political parties and pressure group and movements. My dear students, before we discuss this concept, I want to tell you that from 2004 to 2014 there was the rule of one alliance, United Progressive Alliance, which was led by Indian National Congress. And from 2014 to 2020, still the NDA, National Democratic Alliance, is ruling over the country. The power is shifted from one political party to the another political party. There was a period in the Indian political history that in 1989, since 1989, there was a period of coalition government. Coalition government, that the government which is formed by two and more than two political parties. There is a little bit difference between the alliance system and coalition system. Alliance is formed before the election result or before the election, and coalition is formed after the election result. For understand it, I want to give the example of 2019 election, state assembly election in Haryana, when out of 90 seats BJP won 40, and for get majority 46 seats is required. So that was the reason that there was a coalition government which is running at present by BJP and JJP. 40 plus 10 is equal to 50 seats. So this is the coalition government. There is the power is shared between the JJP party and BJP party. So among different political parties, pressure group and movements. In a democracy, power is shared among different political parties in long run. Sometimes this kind of sharing can be direct, for example in coalition government. Interest groups like traders, businessmen, industrialists, farmers, including workers, all have share in the governmental power sharing either through participation in the government communities or bringing influence on decision making process. I want to give one example, Bharatiya Kisan Union. Yes, which is a strong pressure group in our country India of farmers. They always put pressure on the government to make favorable policy for farmers. So these are the four kinds of power sharing in the world which is running at present. My dear students, today we completed chapter number 1, power sharing. Read NCERT book and watch this video and understand this chapter in easily way. And I hope that you understand it. And the second thing, I request to you all that stay at home and stay safe, because